Well, I am downtown in Washington, D.C. right now, and it's been about a month since I did one of our ERI updates, and I thought, what better place to do it than here? So I'm planning on doing these about once a month or so, and I've jotted down some notes of some of the things that we've been working on the last month and what's coming up. And so for those of you that are interested in what is going on behind the scenes at the ERI office, here's some of the things that have been going on lately. I spoke at Ohio recently at one of the most beautiful campuses that I have ever spoken at. I'm going to drop in a picture just because it was gorgeous there. But one of the really cool things there was, I gave this whole talk at one of these Students for Life leadership summits that we speak at a lot. And I gave the whole presentation, and towards the end I gave a little, I talked about the Equip for Life course just a little bit in case there's any student clubs there that felt like they could be helped by it. And then I finished the talk and I go to sit down, and before the kind of the MC could move on to the next thing, one of the students stands up and says, "I just want everyone to know our club's taken this course. It was awesome, and it's the reason that we're doing outreach." And I was like, I didn't know there were course people here. Like, it was really, really cool to just be able to kind of talk with this group. Who were one of the first clubs actually to buy the course. And so I ended up hanging out with their club leader at lunch, and then I didn't have anyone I needed to have dinner with. So I ended up having dinner with that whole club. There's like 10 of them there. It was awesome. We all went to Chick-fil-A, and I answered their philosophically nerdy questions for like an hour and a half. But it was awesome. I had a really good time with them, and I shot a video of the club leader kind of talking about the course. So I'm sure I'm going to use that in some video in the future, but I haven't edited it yet, so I'm not going to put it in. But so that was pretty cool. And then a few weeks ago, I was in Washington State. I had 3 talks, but there was something special about this trip. This was the first time I've ever been able to take my wife on a speaking trip with me. This was literally the first time she'd seen me speak in public in like 8 years. So it was really fun. It was really cool that my awesome parents were willing to kind of sacrifice and watch our kids for almost a week while we went, because I had kind of a series of lectures and a bunch of meetings planned. But then we also got to spend some time as husband and a wife away from the kids, and it was quite fantastic. But I spoke, besides the Leadership Summit in Seattle, I also spoke at Western Washington University and Clark College, which was in Vancouver, and it was a really interesting experience. I'll just tell kind of one interesting kind of observation or thing that happened there. Both of those talks at the 2 colleges were on bodily rights arguments. Whenever college students invite me to speak on their campus, I'm encouraging them these days, have me do a talk on bodily rights arguments, because it's great for both sides. For any pro-life people who show up, it's going to be good for them. They're going to, maybe some of them for the first time will even understand bodily rights arguments, and then also understand both, the good, the strong versions of this argument, the weaker ones, and how to respond to both. That's great. But then for the pro-choice people who come, they're going to get a lot out of it. They're going to hear a pro-life person take their view really seriously in public, like respond to what Sam Harris, who's a famous atheist philosopher, calls, as opposed to straw man arguments, steel man arguments. We're going to respond to the strongest versions of pro-choice arguments. And because I think that forces pro-choice people to kind of take us kind of seriously. Like, there's a kind of begrudging respect, I think, that happens. They might come expecting to be really mad that there's this pro-life man on my campus talking about these arguments, and then hopefully kind of surprised. And that's what happened at both campuses. It was awesome. So the Northwest is a very liberal area, and we had pro-choice people come to both talks, and I could tell. You can't always tell, but in this case I could tell in both cases. At least some pro-choice people were there at both talks. And that makes you a little bit nervous or whatever, but I did the exact same talk. I started by kind of saying, look, I'm really excited. If there are any pro-choice people here, I think you'll get a lot out of this. Here's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to take your view very seriously. I'm going to respond to this kind of category of pro-choice arguments I think are really interesting. I'm going to give what I think are good responses to it after having thought about it a lot, and then I really want to hear from you. I want you to be part of the dialogue. I want to hear what your comments are, your questions. I will answer anything that you have on your mind. And that kind of sets it up. I learned that kind of style from Life Training Institute. They do something similar at the beginning of a lot of their talks. I think it's really helpful when you know there's pro-choice people in the audience. And so that's what I did. And in both cases, no one interrupted the talk. All of the pro-choice people were super respectful the entire time. And then at Q&A, they engaged. Well, I'll say it differently. So this is where it diverges. At Western Washington, most of the Q&A was with pro-choice people. Clark College, it was different. In Clark College, I don't know of more than one pro-choice person that was there who was super respectful, but she didn't engage. I'm actually not positive it's a man or if it's a man or a woman, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Use the name Luke, but someone there I don't know. So anyway, that's fine. Really, really kind person who came up and introduced him or herself afterwards and was super kind and respectful, and was quoted in the paper that talked about the event, and so that was great. But at Western Washington, in Bellingham, Washington, almost the entire Q&A was with pro-choice people, and I might end up releasing the recording of that Q&A. It's not great audio, but we might release at least some of the clips from that. I know a lot of the people subscribed to the podcast are interested in Q&A audio. But it was great. It was, a little bit intense, certainly were very pro-choice people. But here's the thing, the pro-choice people, said, they said, thanks for coming. They were so happy to, they were, pleasantly surprised. Exactly what I've been telling pro-life students. This is what you should expect happened in the northwestern part of the U.S. I had a pro-life person say, I don't know what other pro-life, type of pro-life person could have this kind of an impact in the Northwest. And started naming some names of some pro-life speakers that I'm not going to say because it's not the point. But it's saying there's some other famous pro-life speakers who have different kinds of talks that don't work. And this person actually seen some of those times where people just leave or get really mad. But this kind of talk, we're being very obviously clear, taking the other side very seriously. This works really, really well. And so I want to do more talks in the Northwest now, because I think even though there are a lot of very left-leaning people there, a lot of very, very pro-choice people, this style of talking to people works. And I got to see that a lot a couple of weeks ago, and that was awesome. What else? I know this is going to be longer than the last time. I'm sorry. I've got a lot to cover. I'll try to go quickly. The Seattle Summit was, so here's the interesting thing about the Seattle Leadership Summit. I hope this audio is good. I'm doing my best. I know it's outside and it's windy, and forgive the poor audio. The Seattle Leadership Summit was huge. For a leadership summit, there's 70 students there. And the average is 40 of these, some smaller, some bigger. And I asked one of the pro-life student leaders, I said, why are there so many people here? What is it about Seattle that this is so big? And she said, it's because there are no apathetic students here. This area is so liberal, the apathetic students have already been weeded out. They've already gone, they're gone. They've been, the refiner's fire, they haven't risen to the top. Whereas all the students here, they're passionate. They're passionately pro-life and really want to know how to make better arguments, which is, I think, why the students were particularly excited by what we had to offer. And multiple clubs there had already gotten the course, and it was really great hanging out with students there that were of that caliber. Last week, I recorded an interview on another group's podcast, or another podcast, not a group, but just another podcast called, what was it called? Southern Barbecue Philosophy, I think. Forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. I'll put a link down. But it was a fairly lengthy interview about what we do, and they asked some interesting questions. Very, very Southern. But a couple of really nice guys, and have some interesting questions, and we got into a few topics that I don't get into that often in public. And so if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description for that. Tim was in Phoenix at the Students for Life Leadership Summit recently. We were speaking at the same time It was actually, what was it? So it was last weekend. Tim was in Phoenix while I was in Oregon. I went back to Oregon a week later to speak at the Oregon Right to Life conference. That was really nice. I've spoken for Oregon Right to Life several times. I really love that group. This is a really cool group of pro-lifers that are doing some really awesome things. And it was a good opportunity to meet some pro-life speakers that I hadn't met before, although in some cases I'd known. So there were a few that I wasn't that familiar with, but I love these people, and I'm certainly going to be doing stuff with them later. These two people, Catherine Adair and Jules Green. Oh my gosh, these gals are a hoot. They're both formerly abortion clinic workers, have left, have become pro-life, both pro-life and pro-life speakers. Really interesting things to say in their talks, and we're certainly going to be partnering with them in the future and getting their story in front of you, because they have some really important things to say. Also got to meet Ryan Baumberger. Ryan Baumberger and I have both kind of admired each other from afar, but have never been at the same conference to meet. So that was nice to hang out with him. And then I also had the honor to meet Randy Alcorn for the first time. Randy Alcorn has written multiple pro-life books and had a really positive impact on my life as I was first getting into pro-life apologetics. Around the time that I was like 18, 19, 20. And he doesn't speak very often. He turns down most speaking requests and does a lot of writing. But they kind of strong-armed him into speaking at this. And it was nice to just, I got to spend a few minutes kind of thanking him for the positive impact he's had on my life and the impact that he's had on the pro-life movement. And we had a really nice conversation about moral relativism and utilitarianism and kind of what's going on college campuses and how we both suspect that church is 10 or 20 years behind that trend. So that was just a really positive thing. And then in 2 weeks, I'm speaking at the Atlanta Homeschool Conference on how homeschool moms can equip their homeschool teens on this issue before they go to college. So we've actually got some material I still want to write for the introduction for that talk. But after that, the busy speaking season is over. It's been really, really crazy. I've not been home a lot lately. I had like a 2-day break between Oregon Right to Life and this talk, which was at a Family Research Council. The reason I'm in DC right now, I just literally walked from Family Research Council headquarters, it's about a half mile away, to go and kind of see this area, and I wanted to record this video in a cool place. Basically, that's why I'm here. That went really well. There were they don't know right now. They haven't gotten the stats back for how many people, but it looks like at least 4,000 people were probably watching that lecture on the most persuasive pro-life argument. It was really nice to talk to some of the staff at FRC. So that was really good. What's in process right now, I'm going to try to wrap up. We've got multiple articles I'm really excited about that are in process. I've got multiple articles that I'm about to write. Tim's in the process right now of multiple articles, and Rachel is now working on a second article. We just published her article on practical outreach tips, which is great. Really practically helpful for college students. And then I'm also now that I'm almost done with this a lot of the speaking, I'm a little bit behind on just some of the boring administrative tasks at ERI, so I've got some stuff to catch up on, including going through, we've got some new applications from clubs wanting to get the scholarship to take the course. So we've gotten several of those scholarships I haven't been able to process yet, and try to connect those people with donors. So I'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks. The only other things, real quick, I want to respond to one comment we got online. There was one person, it was a really respectful comment, but someone who was kind of concerned that by doing this public podcast, which is mainly the audio blogs, it's us reading our articles for the people who don't read blog posts as much, and then these updates and occasionally other things, they were kind of concerned, isn't this going to take away from you writing new content? They're like, I care about the new content. The implication was, I digest everything you put in. I don't want you wasting time on repurposing old content if that's going to take away from putting out new content. And just so you know, I don't think this was going to happen. The stuff we're doing on this public podcast is purposely made to be very, very quick to turn around. All of this stuff takes about an hour tops to turn around, because there's not a lot of editing going into it. There's not a lot involved in. I'm just putting my iPhone up on a little tripod and recording. And we record into a microphone sometimes for better audio, but There's not a lot of editing. It doesn't take much time to process. Like, it's so much less involved than what went into producing the course videos. Like, that takes a lot of time because you're really trying to finesse those and make those just great, and it's a lot harder to shoot. We've purposely made this so we're not trying to make this really like professional looking. We're just trying to make it somewhere in the middle. Like, it's kind of nice, but made to be the more higher value on quick to record and edit and put out and not take a lot of time. So this isn't getting in the way of making new content because it's so quick to turn around. And it's so quick to turn around that it's worth doing because we're able to hit hundreds of, like already we're hitting hundreds of people that arguably wouldn't be reading the stuff on the blog anyway. Or donors who want to know what's going on at ERI, but since we don't send a lot of emails, we're not putting stuff in the inbox outside of the new content, gives them a chance to kind of know what's going on. So don't worry if you've been worried like, oh no, they're putting out more stuff, but I care more about the articles than the podcast. Like, it's not going to slow us down. We've got a goal. We're going to be putting out new articles on average every other week. That's the goal, and I'm confident we can, for the most part, stick with that this year. So don't worry about that. If you have other questions that you want me to cover on future ERI update videos, post them in the comments below this, wherever you find this, or email them to me, and I'd be happy to respond. I'm not sure what kinds of things you'd be interested in knowing about what goes on behind the scenes of ERI, but certainly want to be transparent. So if you're interested in what's going on behind the scenes beyond what I'm sort of covering in these kind of monthly update videos, let me know, and I'd be happy to cover that stuff. Again, and I want to say this every time, thank you so much to our donors who let us focus so much time on thinking about what is working and what is not, and testing new things. Oh my gosh, I've already got multiple things I want to test on the next outreaches that I'm really excited about. And so our donors make that possible. So if you're a donor, thank you so much. If you're not donating, please consider giving, because I'm focusing the vast majority of my time on leading this organization and working on creating content for our students, and not as much time on fundraising. And so given that, if you've been wondering what would be a good pro-life organization to put some funds into, I can make an argument that your dollar goes a long way here. Not that there are no other good pro-life organizations. There are some awesome pro-life organizations that I'm excited about. That if you're interested in those, I'd be happy to tell you about those too. But we are more slowed down by funding than anything else. I've got a lot of things, a lot of projects I want us to accomplish, and easily the thing that's slowing us down the most right now is lack of funds. And so we're doing okay. This isn't one of those emails that's like, we're closing down the doors in a month if you don't give money. It's nothing like that. We're doing okay, and I'm really grateful to those of you who are already giving. But if you're not, I would ask you to prayerfully consider. We're doing some really great work. I'm really proud of what we're doing, and we could use some more help. Thanks so much for watching, and I will do another one of these in about a month. Thanks.